right, we can add finger controls in. I know we've been delaying on it, so let's go ahead and do it. We're going to say Edit, Add Attributes. We're going to give it, the way we're going to do this is we're just going to do each individual finger of curls, and then we may also add like a fist and a spread. So first off, let's do thumb underscore curl. I'm going to set the minimum to -2 and the maximum to 10. And say add. Then we're going to do the same thing for the other fingers. Middle underscore. Let's do index first, obviously. Index underscore curl. -2. +10. Middle underscore curl. -2. +10. Not 110. 10. We'll do, so we did the index middle, now let's do the ring finger. Ring underscore curl. -2. +10. You may be thinking, why -2 to +10? Why not just 0 to 10? Well, we'd like to go in the reverse direction as well a little bit. Not a whole lot though. Pinky underscore curl. -2. +10. Let's also add fist. This is where we can go 0 to 10. We'll add spread. This I would like to go negative, but probably not as much as I'd like to go positive with it, as far as I can spread those out. Maybe we can go -10 and +10 for spread. And finally, I like to do a relax. For this one, it's really only 0 to 10. All right, so now we can start connecting these together. And we're going to do that with the set-driven keys. So I'm going to go to my animation toolkit, key, set-driven key, set. We're going to load the driver. And now we can start loading in how we're going to rotate everything. So let's start with the thumb curl. My thumb's a little crooked. That's okay. So I'm going to load driven. On all of these, I can select all of them at once. If I go to rotate, and I take a look, rotate Y seems to be how I want to rotate this in. I've got some skin weights I needed to correct on my fingers. I may not want to select this last joint. Maybe these just last two. There we go. So let's go for... Sorry, I was getting a lot of emails. So let's go for connecting up the rotation of this joint with the rotate Y. So I'm going to go to my hand control. This is obviously my thumb curl. And I'm going to go to rotate Y for all of those. Since this is the default, just go ahead and say key. Now I can go to my thumb curl and increase this to 10. Go back to all of those, rotate Y, and really bring those in. Again, I may not want to use that first joint, so I'm going to deselect it. And just bring in these two. And say key. I'm going to go back to my hand control, to the thumb curl. Go back, you see here, we already got it going in this direction. If I go to -2 though, nothing really happens. So with these last two joints selected, I'll go to rotate Y, pull them out. Again, we don't want to go too far. Something like this. It's a key. So now my thumb curl is set up. Again, I've got some weight paints to fix, but nothing too crazy. I'm going to zero that out. That's the same process I'm going to do for all of the other curls. I'll show you the index curl, and then I'll let you do the rest yourselves. So we already have our driver, but I need to load the new driven. And so you rotate Z, it's going to be my curl here. So at the default, I'm going to go back to make sure my index curl is set to 0. It is. I'm going to select all of these with rotate Z selected. Since they are at the default pose that I want them to be, I'll say keep. Now I can go back to my index curl, increase it to 10. And then go back to these rotate Z's of these options. and start curling them. Now you see if I curl too far, again, weight pain issues that I need to correct, but it isn't quite natural. So instead of curling each individually, or all together rather, let's curl them individually. That way I get a control over each individual curl. I'm just looking at the joints and not so much my skin weights. I got some work there to do. I did not set key. How silly. Let's do that again. So index curl. Make sure that this control is set to 10. It is. And I'll go through and curl these up. Once I have them set, key. So now when I go back to my control and scrub between those two keys that I've made, I get the curl of the fingers. Let's do negative as well. -2. All of these joints. Rotate them back on Z. Again, not too far. Just something like this. That's a key. So now when I do my index curl, there we go. I'm going to pause the video and continue doing my other fingers, but it's going to be the same method. Okay, there we go. Got all of my curls set up. Ready to move on to the next, which is a fist. Curls may look like a fist, but not really. Just get these all back to set to 0. Let's set a fist. This time it's going to be a little bit more complex. I'm going to select the hand control, go to the fist, and in this test, we're going to select all of our joints. Oops. Selecting that IK handle. So let's hide everything and show joints. There we go. So now we have quite a few more options being loaded in to the driven. Actually, notice how it's only loading the first joint of each of these. So what we need to do quickly, just go through and select all the joints. Again, we don't need to select the tip of the joints, the finger ends, for each individual finger, because those actually don't have any rotational values. Now we'll say load driven. Now we have all of them loaded in. I'm going to select them all. And we'll select all of their rotates. In fact, let's also do the translates as well. Translates and rotates. Currently, my fist is set to 0, so let's key those. So now, what I'll do is go through, set my fist to 10, and I'm going to rotate a fist from a character. I may need to translate some of these joints as well. I encourage you to make a fist yourself. Try replicating your joints and how they rotate. Because not everything is rotated at the same increments. You definitely want to avoid also intersections like this. For example, the ring finger would be good. Down into even further. I know it kind of looks odd since my weight paints for my fingers aren't done. Same thing for the pinky. It's going to be curled in further than the previous ones, because it's a shorter finger. It may also help to translate these, to get them a little bit closer. And rotate them. I'm noticing when I make a fist, my first two knuckles are higher than the rest. Not that our knuckles change positions like this, but it just helps to build that shape. going to hit key. So now when I go back and forth between those two, everything kind of resets back to how it was. But we get a fist. Again, I could spend a little bit more time with this. In fact, I think I will. Just quickly, since I already have my set-driven keys here. Let's bring in that pinky a little bit more and rotate it in. Same thing for the ring finger. Oops. There we go. Again, weight painting will really help those shapes take form. Okay. That's my fist done. Let's talk about spread. And really, for spread, we only need the first joint. So let's load those as the driven. Hand control, spread. And really, it's only going to be rotate Y. So let's set that up. Since I have all of them selected over here, and I set key at the default, they'll be keyed at the default. Now when I go to increase the spread, I can then give these a bit of spread. Now I've noticed when I spread my fingers, my middle finger doesn't really move. However, all the other joints do as well. I need to load my thumb in. I didn't load that in. I'll go back and do that after I complete all these other fingers, since I didn't initially load it in. I'll ensure that my spread is set to +10 and say key. I'll then take my spread back to 0 and then down to -10, where I can load and really get these fingers closer together. And then it's the inverse of a spread. Again, my pinky doesn't really, or not my pinky, but my middle finger doesn't really move much, so I'm not manipulating it much. Which is key. And again, that's only rotate Y. But now I get a little nice spread for any of those joints, just to spread them apart. Let's go back and do the thumb. So since we're spread is set to 0, I can go ahead and key this at the rotate Y. Spread goes up to 10. I should have done this when I initially loaded those fingers in, but I just didn't load it in. Again, I need to really go back and take a look at the weight paints. These are the default for the fingers, I'd imagine. There we go. Not too bad. And finally, let's take a look at a relax. Relax, I like to think of as just a nice pose for the fingers. Normally, our hands aren't flattened out like this. If you just relax your hand and hold your arm up and support your wrist, you'll notice that your hands have a little bit of a natural curl to them, with the index being less curled than the other fingers. So let's try to replicate that. Again, I needed to, just kind of like the fist earlier, load each of these individual joints in. And I'm going to select them all. Unlike the fist, though, I'm just going to focus on rotate for the relax pose. So at the default, you can go ahead and set key, then go back to my control and increase this relax to 10, and start working on this relaxed pose. You could achieve this through curls, but I like to have a nice, easy, quick option for a relaxed pose, because more often than not, especially with walk cycles, I like to just hit this relaxed pose, and I really don't want to think about having to do that each time with the curl. Again, I'm lifting my hand up and just taking a look at my thumb and seeing how it relaxes down. There we go. I could continue this out a little bit, just to continue thinking of how a relaxed hand is going to look. I think that's solid for now, though. Say keep. So now when I open up and close my relax, we get a little bit of a relaxed hand pose. I'm going to turn off my joints and close the set journal key from window, just to take a look at all these hand poses. Because the great thing is, we can mix and match and combine them. So if I wanted a hand pose with a relax with a little bit of the fingers closer together, I can achieve that. Or maybe I wanted this index to be a little bit straighter or a little bit more curled. We can achieve that as well. Maybe I can mix it with the fist. Doesn't really look right though. Again, I need to go back and worry about weight paints. We'll zero all that out. Oops, forgot the index curl. And there we go. Hand controls. Time to do it for the other side.